So he's just wearing the halter, but we're not using the halter to lead him. The first step of leading is just to apply just a tiny bit of pressure behind his tail and see if he would go forward, release immediately as he moves forward. And the same thing is with moving backwards. You just apply a little bit of pressure to the chest as soon as he moves backwards. Even one little step, you release the pressure.
Good boy.
This is day 4 of his training.
Good boy. Keep back. Good boy. Back again. Good boy. Forward. Good boy. Forward. Good boy.
Now I'm letting my daughter try because it is so beneficial for the foal to know from a young age that different people can handle him and it's still okay. There's no reason for fear just because it's a different person.
Keep back. Good. Good boy. There. Perfect. Boy. Perfect.
This was actually a very short session, and we're ending it with my littlest son just petting him and desensitizing him further, checking all the areas that we already desensitized during the previous 3 sessions of training from day 1 till now. And then we're gonna give him a long break, and then we're coming back for a second session to introduce some more leading techniques and solidify what we already introduced to him. Now we're just having the halter just so he gets used to it, but it's very important if the foal takes off, you're not applying pressure to the halter whatsoever. This could cause a reaction that could make them flip over and hurt themselves. So it's very important to not use the halter to lead at this time. And if the foal goes to move, use what we call elastic arms and just drift with the foal. Do not apply pressure.
Good job, Tiana.
So now this is session 2 of day 4, and we're introducing a different method of leading him using a neck rope and a butt rope.
So I have a rope around his neck and a rope around his butt. And what I'm doing with them is I'm first going to ask him to walk forward with the rope around his neck, and then I'm going to tell him with the rope around his butt.
And as soon as he goes, you release the pressure either way, right? Okay.
Ask him, tell him.
Tell him. No, ask him and tell him away from mom. So walk towards Ethan there.
Ask him, tell him.
Good job. Okay, release that rope around his neck. I mean around his butt.
Now I'm
Good.
going to ask, and now I'm going to tell him.
Good. As soon as he moves
Ask him.
forward, you release.
Tell him.
Good. Good
Boy.
release timing.
Ask him, tell him.
Mm-hmm.
There. Now I asked him, and he started moving right away. And we just kind of hurry,
Correct him.
ask, and then tell. Now he's a rather sensitive foal, so I'm asking with very light pressure. Ask him. There, good boy. Ask him to kind of slow down here.
And be careful that he doesn't flip over.
Be very careful, not put too much pressure. And I'm going to turn him over here. Ask him. And tell him. And now, since I'm over here, it's going to get a little harder. Ask him. Tell him. Because now he's by mom, and he doesn't want to go away from her.
So tell him, are you telling him about the butt rope?
Yeah, but right now I'm just asking. Ask him. And tell him. Good boy. And now I'm going to switch sides, going from the back so that he doesn't get scared. And I'm going to ask him and then tell him. Ask him to come and then tell him to come.
Good timing, Tiana.
Now, what he does here is absolutely very normal in the beginning. You have to be very aware of your energy and the amount of pressure that you put. And even though his legs have been desensitized, he still can have a flight reaction because they're little. They get distracted by all kinds of things very easily. And all of a sudden, they feel a little pressure on their butt and they just zoom forward. But after another 2 to 3 sessions, he would be a champion in this exercise. You just have to really watch your energy and make sure that you always ask with the neck rope first, and then you reinforce your request with the butt rope. And always apply what we call elastic hands, which is basically when they jet forward, they don't come against a dead pole to a halt, but you don't release the pressure either. It's kind of like your arms are drifting with the fall, still keeping a little bit of pressure on.
Good girl. Tiana, you're excellent.
So what happened there just goes to show how important it is to be aware and ready for what the fall might do. Why it was so important for Fiona to drift with the fall and not apply pressure is because if the fall feels tightness around the pole or pressure, too much pressure around the pole, it triggers something called positive phygmotaxis, and that in turn sets up what's called an opposition reflex, which causes pulling back to a point of breaking halters and flipping over, which could then lead to fracturing their skull. And now we're moving on to another leading technique that involves having a halter and putting the lead rope around the butt of the fall, coming around and tying a knot under their chin. And you need to take care that the rope is not too loose so that the hind legs don't get tangled, and at the same time that the rope is not too tight because that would apply too much pressure.
And just like a half, just like a regular knot. And now what?
When I ask him to come forward, if he raises his head or tries to back up, the rope around his butt will push him forward, like I was doing with the butt rope at first. Okay, so I'm going to ask him.
Yeah, there you go. There! And it worked perfectly.
Boy.
So come on this side so you can show how the rope works, like his legs are.
Okay, so I'm going to ask him to come this way.
Okay.
And then the moment he
See the butt
starting
rope?
to push him, and now he comes and I release.
And the butt rope releases at the same time.
So it only comes into action if he raises his head up or tries to go back. Good boy.
And even the slightest try is rewarded.
If he just lifts up one foot and puts it forward, I'm going to release there. Good boy.
There.
Good boy. I'm going to come this way. Good boy. Ask again. Good boy.
So when you're asking the foal to move forward, pulling straight is probably going to trigger that opposition reflex, and the foal might learn to pull back instead of moving forward. Instead, you could position yourself at a 45-degree angle and ask the movement to the side. It kind of tips them off balance and unlocks their feet. And then they figure out that they need to step forward, and eventually they walk straight forward. But just this teaching stage, we just exaggerate in order to make ourselves clear.
Okay. Good boy.
He's licking and chewing. That would be a good point. Let's bring him back to mom and let's disassemble all this.
So this is the end of day 4, session 2, teaching him to lead. Again, the advantage of this method is that when the foal has the tendency of throwing their head up and getting into that flight response, before that halter hits the pole and creates too much pressure, the butt rope actually scoops the foal forward and encourages them to walk. Because remember, we have already taught him how to give to that pressure when in the previous session when we were using the neck rope to ask and the butt rope to tell. And because of all the desensitizing work that we've already done on his hindquarters, he is not worried even a little bit about that rope touching his butt. And yet again, if you try that on a foal that hasn't been desensitized yet, it might lead to a big panic attack. I mean, how many times we see young colts getting started under saddle and something touches their butt and they get really scared and take off on a bucking spree. So that's just what we recommend.
All right, good session. Thank you.
It took a few more sessions to get him to follow in a straight line just with a halter, and we'll show you how we did that in the next video. Thanks for watching.